Coming up on Fox 44 News at 9, thousands gathered in Austin to protest the war in Israel. We hear from both sides.
And the capital murder trial for Marvin Guy continues with his former girlfriend taking the stand.
Also, new House Speaker Mike Johnson being put to the test as the clock counts down towards a government shutdown.
Live from Waco, Temple, and Killeen, your news now. This is Fox 44 News at 9.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us for Fox 44 News at 9. I'm Adam Hooper.
And I'm MG Montemayor.
Israeli troops are pushing deeper into Gaza as the 38th day of fighting ends.
It comes as Hezbollah ramps up attacks in northern Israel. Fox's Alex Hogan has more.
Fighting escalating along the Israel-Lebanon border. Israeli Defense Forces say fighter jets struck a number of Hezbollah weapons compounds and military infrastructure on Monday. It comes after one of the most violent days there since the start of the war. Hezbollah militants launching missiles over the weekend, killing one Israeli and injuring several others.
What Hezbollah really has, and where they would have something of an advantage, is the 130,000 rockets and missiles that have a greater range, more precision, and more lethality than what Hamas has.
Back in the Gaza Strip, Israeli airstrikes are supporting ground troops operating in northern Gaza. Thousands of Palestinians are fleeing to shelters in the region as fighting ramps up around hospitals, which Israel says are Hamas strongholds.
It is Hamas that has embedded itself under the hospital with floors and floors and floors of weaponry. It's essentially a terrorist base under the hospital.
The World Health Organization says electricity has been out for days at the Al-Shifa hospital. Israel says that Hamas refused its fuel deliveries to that facility over the weekend, something that Hamas denies. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees warns without more aid, the group will no longer be able to resupply hospitals or provide drinking water.
50 or 60 or 70 trucks per day today, with that level of destruction, compared to 500 trucks before the war, is really very little.
Israel says that its forces will help evacuate babies from Al-Shifa, but the hospital says that has not happened yet. In northern Israel, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
Thousands gathered at the state capitol in Austin this weekend and marched the streets to demand an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
Yeah, attendees also called for an end to both U.S. aid to Israel and to what they call a 17-year siege on Gaza. Fox 44's Renako G joins us now live in the newsroom after attending Sunday's protest to share what both Israelis and Palestinians want heard as the war rages on. Renako.
MG and Adam, these are dark hours for both Palestinians and Israelis, but they are doing their part to advocate for their own.
Who is the revolution?
According to the Palestinian Youth Movement and partnering organizers, the Sunday protest was the largest in favor of Palestinians in Texas history.
Sunday was a continuation of what we saw in DC a week ago, where we saw hundreds of thousands of people on the streets in DC declaring that this is just the beginning and that they want to escalate until they get what they want, which is a ceasefire.
Thousands lined the streets to protest the deadly bombings in Gaza and demand an immediate ceasefire and end to what Nashwa Abdul-Wahid calls a 17-year siege. Conversely, Israelis like Dorit Hildenberg, who moved to the States just 2 months before the war started, are fighting for the return of Israeli hostages.
It's humanitarian tragedy. I mean, we live in a horror situation for the past 38 days. I think that Israel won't be the same.
Now!
Both Dora and Nashwa say their people are suffering through bombings and a loss of security for their homes and communities.
This war is different from other wars or operations that were in Israel because a boundary was crossed here, the boundary of inhumanity. I think the human mind and the human heart cannot comprehend this kind of horror.
I think the hardest part of all of this has been seeing the way people are treated, the way the Palestinian people have been talked about in order to justify their genocide. What we've seen is the worst of humanity in Gaza.
Both say no one's life will be the same once this war comes to an end, but they will stand in solidarity with their own. Live in the newsroom, Renako G, Fox 44 News.
Thanks, Renako.
We're in day 5 of Marvin Guy's capital murder trial in the death of Killeen detective Charles Dinwiddie. This morning, Guy's former girlfriend, Shirley Whittington, provided testimony on what she experienced during the no-knock warrant inside Guy's apartment back in May of 2014.
Whittington has never discussed her story with the prosecution or defense up until today. Whittington says Guy came to her house the night before wanting to talk about their relationship. Whittington decided to go to Guy's apartment to spend the night and ended up arguing until 2 or 3 in the morning. Whittington says she then went to sleep but later woke up to rapid, loud popping nearby. Whittington didn't know it was gunfire and didn't hear the words police search warrant in this line of events.
Whittington ran to the closet in Guy's back apartment bedroom where she stayed until hearing someone asking for anyone inside to come out. Whittington says she came outside and was tackled by KPD. Whittington explained to the jury she saw the chair rammed against Guy's front door before removing it to go outside. She also claimed to have never seen Guy with a gun, knew about him dealing drugs, and doesn't recall him having target practice paper. Parker Heights police officers are investigating the death of a man identified as 37-year-old D'Angelo Xavier Valadez. Police officers first found a woman with injuries to her head and arms Sunday afternoon. She told the officers Valadez was injured in a building 2 blocks away, along with a person who reportedly hurt them. Valadez was found unresponsive in an abandoned building in the 500 block of West Veterans Memorial Boulevard, where he was pronounced dead. Officers then found a suspect in the 200 block of Jamie Road and took him into custody.
One child is dead after an argument turned into gunfire between 2 people in a flea market near Houston. Police say 5 people were shot at Pearland's Coles Flea Market late Sunday afternoon. 3 adults and 2 juveniles were victims. One of the juveniles died from their injuries. Police say it appears the flea market itself was not targeted.
We're hearing that this started because there was a disturbance between 2 individuals at the flea market that resulted in gunfire. I'm not sure if they both had firearms, if one person had firearms. I do not know the number of rounds that were fired, but it appears as though it was 2 subjects that got involved in a disturbance, and that's what resulted in the shootings.
No arrests have been made so far in the shooting.
Questions still remain as to why a plane ran off the runway and through a fence at the Aero Country Airport in McKinney. New cell phone video from a young man riding his bike nearby shows the scary moments when the plane broke through the fence, missing him by inches. Instead, that plane crashed into a car driving down the street. The young man says he was watching planes and just happened to be right there.
I just saw this plane. I was expecting it to slow down, but it just kept getting closer and it wasn't slowing down. All I was thinking was just, I need to run away from this. And I just immediately stopped filming and I just started running backwards towards the golf course.
Carson says the plane attempted to land before the hard landing and crash. At least 1 person was injured and taken to the hospital. The FAA is leading the investigation.
This week is Crash Responder Safety Week, and the International Association of Firefighters is urging the public to use extreme caution while driving near traffic accidents. The initiative is designed to raise public awareness and help keep firefighters, other first responders, and the public safe. Firefighters and paramedics work tirelessly to save lives at traffic incident scenes as swiftly and safely as possible. Too often, this dangerous work leads to tragedy, claiming the life of nearly 1 first responder each week in the United States. Many more sustain life-altering injuries while responding to traffic accidents. The IAFF is urging the citizens they serve to do their part to protect themselves and responders by slowing down, moving over, and staying alert when approaching traffic incidents.
Tomorrow, Catholic Charities of Central Texas is teaming up with the Department of Veterans Affairs for a special Veterans Day celebration. It'll start at 10 in the morning at the Community Living Center on Veterans Memorial Boulevard in Temple. Veterans will receive several items, including handmade cards from children who attend St. Joseph Academy to thank them for their service.
This Saturday, the Baylor Bears will play the TCU Horned Frogs for the 119th time, making it the longest-standing college football rivalry in Texas. To mark that milestone, the student body leaders at both universities came together to give this game a name and a trophy. From now on, it will be called the Blue Bonnet Battle. The trophy is a metal shield created by Baylor alum Bryant Stanton. It features the logos of both schools, the outline of Texas adorned with blue bonnets, and the year 1899, which is when the first game was played. Baylor coach Dave Aranda says he's impressed with how the students came together to make this happen.
Having in the past been in rivalries where you're playing for something and you're walking by and, hey, there it is, or, there it's not, depending on the outcome, I think is just a cool thing. And so just really impressed and honored to be in this spot.
The shield will sit in a mesquite base embellished with the Lone Star of Texas. The rivalry was formalized through the passage of a resolution by the student government legislatures of both universities. Baylor University's Board of Regents has approved $6.3 million for construction of a memorial to enslaved persons. It will recognize the enslaved men and women who the university says were instrumental in building Baylor's original campus in Independence, Texas. Groundbreaking ceremony for the memorial to enslaved persons is scheduled for next year in February during Black History Month. Construction is expected to begin shortly thereafter.
Coming up, new House Speaker Mike Johnson races against the clock to avert a government shutdown.
And the Supreme Court released a formal code of conduct. We'll show you what they say.
This is Fox 44 News at 9 with Adam Hooper, MG Montemayor, AMS certified chief meteorologist Mike LaPointe, and sports with Eric Kelly.